Hey everybody. It froze for a second, so I don't know if it did that on everybody's end or just ours. But anyway,
Yeah.
here with one of my favorite people, Defender Michelle Boudin. You have a Where's the Money special tonight at 11. Tell us about it.
I love this story because it's got so many layers to it. It touches on so many of the different things that we've all been living through since March. It talks about COVID and social justice and small businesses and businesses helping each other. So I'm going to try and not tell the whole story, try and tease it. We want
Hard.
at 11, but it's so hard. Yeah. Essentially, JB and Melinda Bell, they've been married for 17 years. They live in West Charlotte. Great couple. They've got 4 kids. But when they first got married, they felt like they needed marriage counseling. And they couldn't find any counselors over on their side of town in West Charlotte. So they ended up driving to South Park. They didn't love the idea that they were having to go across town. And they're a Black couple. They said they walked in that nobody looked like them in the office that they went to for help in South Park. And JB is a therapist. So he decided, start my own clinic. Took a long time. Didn't happen 17 years ago. I think it was more like 3 or 4 years ago. And he actually helped with the Michael Jordan clinic. So he's a real deal. Yeah, he says
Amazing.
the coolest parts of his life was that he actually met Michael Jordan when he came to the clinic one time. So JB and Melinda, they start this clinic and they're serving the community. This is probably about 3-4 years ago. Everything's going great. And then the pandemic hit and they realized people need us now more than ever. And so they decided to start expanding the clinic back in March and everything was great. And then they came to a screeching halt because they all got COVID. I'm talking like husband and wife who run the business and all 4 kids. And JB, who really was the therapist, he was down for the count. I mean, at one point, the doctors weren't sure he was going to make it. He really had a very serious case. And so not only was the family fighting to just stay afloat, they were trying to keep their business running. And they were able to do that because of a grant, a special grant for small businesses in our area. And that part of the story is something that can impact so many people in our area because these grants are still available. There are millions and millions of dollars. It's thanks to Lowe's. And I've been privileged. I've done a bunch of stories at this point. So I'm pretty well, I know all about these grants. If any of our viewers have questions, they're focused on small businesses and getting people back to work, keeping businesses open. So JB says the reason his business is still alive today is because Lowe's stepped in, gave them this money, and they kept going. And so there's a lot more to this story. The kind of people that they're helping is really cool. So I think it's one of those stories that it's where's the money, but it's also about social justice because of who they're helping. It's about COVID and a family, fighting together through that. So it's got a lot going on.
So how does Lowe's choose who they're going to give these grants to?
So that's been interesting to see this process because Lowe's, I think anyone who's been paying attention knows they're doing okay in this pandemic. Lowe's business is booming. Yeah. And everyone that we talk to that's a part of the Lowe's Corporation says they know they're doing well. And so they feel this need to give back. And so they've been giving back all along in really unique ways. I mean, early on, they were sort of the pioneers in helping breweries make hand sanitizer. So they've been doing things, but then they decided to go all in. And they've got $55 million in grants that they're giving out, not all at once, in cycles across the country. But they announced today, we ran the story at 6, that they're giving $9.2 million in grants. It's going to stay right here in Charlotte. That's
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a big
number. Do people apply, Michelle, or how do they?
Yes. Thank you. We've got all the information. If you go to on our website, wcnca.com/money. And I say that as many times as I can because there is money to be had and there are businesses that I know need help. So it's small businesses they're looking to help, minority-owned businesses, anything in the technology sector. There's so much opportunity and they just want people to apply. They want to help people. So that's the good news in all of this, that, PPP and SBA and all that was, back in March and April, and it's kind of a pain in the neck for a lot of people, but there's a lot more money left to be had. And I know there's so many businesses that still need help.
So tell me about when you talked to this family, because you said that they didn't see representation or people that look like them. And I remember at the beginning of COVID, we interviewed this young female doctor that said when she was younger, she never saw doctors that looked like her. And so she wanted to be that inspiration to young girls, young Black women, that they had someone to look up to that looked like them. So talk about, what did they say about the importance of starting this clinic in their area, but also a Black business?
Well, it's interesting. We talked about that because if you think about mental health, and in the nation. It's something that for so long, nobody wanted to talk about. There was this stigma attached to it. And I think only in the last couple of years, people have really started talking about mental health and being more open about it. And certainly, I think during the pandemic, I think we've all realized that even if you're okay, you're not always okay.
Right.
We're talking more openly, but JB and Melinda say there's another layer to that in the Black community, they're even more reluctant to talk openly about needing therapy. And that's why he says in West Charlotte, they just didn't have anywhere to go. So it was very important for them to bring that to that side of town. And it's a bustling clinic. They say they don't turn anyone away. That's part of the reason we're so grateful for this money. They were able to hire and keep extra staff on, and they don't want anyone to walk out the door without help. And the other layer to this that we didn't have a ton of time to get into is they feel very strongly about working with CMPD officers, which I think a lot of people might be surprised to hear, but they feel strongly that a lot of what's happening across the country, and they specifically talk about the cases we've all heard, Breonna Taylor and, George Floyd. They say those are police officers in all likelihood acting out of stress. And if they can help the officers come to grips with that, then maybe they can prevent the next unfortunate situation. So there's a lot going on with these people really trying to make a difference in the community.
Yeah, that is amazing. Amazing story. Amazing people that we have living right here in our community. I can't imagine when you said that the whole family had COVID, like you hear of the mom or the dad and you all quarantine together just in case, but who takes care of who when everyone in the household has COVID and you're trying to keep your business afloat?
So Melinda talked pretty openly about that, and she got a little bit emotional because JB really had a terrible case. He had pneumonia from the COVID is the way he describes it. And he was in the emergency room and he was in the hospital for more than a week. It was touch and go for a little while. Meanwhile, Melinda says she's at home listening on the phone to her husband as he can barely breathe and get his next breath out, trying to care for their 4 kids who are so upset they were missing online school because they were sick. She said it was the most difficult thing her family has ever been through, but she was also so proud of the way they pulled together. But she said it's unimaginable to think of your entire family. Your husband is not doing well in the hospital. You've got 4 kids who are all dealing. That's the other interesting thing is when you talk to families, they all get COVID in different ways. It impacts people so differently. The positive side of that is that all 4 kids are doing fine, fully recovered. So is Melinda. JB, though, because he had this more severe case, he says he was pre-diabetic before. Now he's full-blown diabetic, and his asthma is very much not under control. He says those are all still lingering impacts from having COVID.
And then you say she was on the phone with him, and this was, a time where you couldn't go in. And I feel like when you can go in and have your family around you, that helps you in your recovery too. But when you're isolated alone at the hospital, I can't imagine how hard that is.
He talked about that. He talked about how it felt so alone. I mean, imagine coming from this close-knit family of 4 kids. There's never a quiet moment. You're always used to being with them. He said it was the longest time he and Melinda had ever been apart. It was just a week that he was in the hospital, and that was the longest they'd ever been apart.
Wow.
Yeah. So, this is a couple and a tight-knit family that rely on each other. So I think this was, they say, this just one of the toughest things they've ever been through. And they're really just a model for so many people in the area that are facing so many different things right now, that they work together as a family. Lowe's stepped in and helped, on a community level. And Lowe's even talks about, for them, helping small businesses helps them in the long run because our economy thrives on these small businesses. So it's just a story of everybody sort of working together to make it happen. And I think that's kind of what this is all about right now.
Yes, most definitely. Sheila on here commenting, saying, thank you, Lowe's. So I have to ask, did they give you any advice on a key to happy marriage? Because I want to know. 17 years, I want to know.
I should have asked, but at this point, I still need to find the guy. So I just need advice on that.
Yes, maybe we can get you a date. Maybe they're watching.
Right? We'll put my phone number at the bottom. People are constantly trying to do that. It's a good, we should ask and what's interesting is that the therapist himself, and right as soon as they got married, they acknowledged we need help, we need therapy, and we're going to do this right. And they've done it ever since.
Yeah, I think just the key to any relationship is being open and honest and seeking help if you need it, whether that's in marriage or mental health or whatever the case may be, especially this time. We're all in this together, and it's okay to say, I'm not okay, or we're not okay.
I keep seeing that on social media, and it's so true. It's, people ask me all the time, how are you doing? And I used to be, I'm great, I'm good. And I finally acknowledge some days I just say, well, I'm hanging in, because some days I'm just hanging in. Other days I'm great. But I think it's much more okay now to just admit that every day is not, it's not hunky-dory right now.
Right. And I think a lot of people know that. But I think this story will be inspiring tonight. And I hope people tune in and watch it. I can't wait to see your story tonight, Michelle. If people have concerns, if they have a story idea, if they have questions after they watch your story, how do they contact you or the defenders?
The defenders have an email, but I always tell people to email me directly. It's just my name. It's mboudin@wcnc.com. I am notorious for reading all my emails. It may be 3:00 in the morning when you get a response, but I do read them all. So and that's how we get so many of our story ideas. We're so grateful for viewers that interact with us.
Did you see this? Effie Bailey saying, we've been married 54 years. My husband said, they're just getting started.
So that's who we need to talk to find out some advice for you and Chris.
Yes. I love marriage advice. I'm all about it. So she'll be watching tonight for sure. So Michelle, thank you so much. I can't wait to see your story. They're always so powerful and leave you really wanting to do better in our community. So thank you for such great storytelling.
Always good to see your face from afar.
Yes, I know. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
See you in person.
Okay.
All right. Watch tonight at 11, everybody.